What if I told you one of the most important books ever written, a book that's supposed to be this huge, chilling warning for our future, was hiding a secret? And the secret isn't in the words, but in the fact that, well, there are no words. We're going to uncover the story of a book with blank pages and figure out what that silence really truly means.
So here it is, the cover of a novel that has, haunted our collective imagination for decades, George Orwell's 1984. I mean, you've definitely heard of it, right? Maybe you even had to read it in school. This is the book that gave us phrases like Big Brother and Thought Police. It is, no question, one of the most influential books ever written.
So we all know it's supposed to be this huge warning, this dark vision of a future we want to avoid. But the question is, what warning does this specific copy have inside? What's on the pages?
Absolutely nothing. The pages are blank. The story? It's just gone. An entire world-famous warning completely wiped clean. It's just empty space.
Okay, so this is obviously not a printing error, right? This is a statement. And that brings us to the central mystery we're going to solve together. Why on earth was this story erased? And to get to the bottom of that, we have to dive into the very world that Orwell was warning us about.
All right, let's step into this world, a world that could create a book with no words, a place where erasing a story isn't just something that could happen, it's official government policy. So who could possibly have that kind of power?
Well, the answer starts with one name, Big Brother. And you gotta understand, he's not a person you can just go meet. He's more of an idea, a symbol of total, complete surveillance. His face is literally everywhere, on posters and screens, with that permanent, unblinking stare that reminds you, you are never, ever alone.
Big Brother is the face of the party. That's the one and only political group that runs this massive superstate called Oceania. And when I say control, I don't just mean political control. I mean it's total. The party tells you what to eat, where you work, what you're allowed to say, and, this is the really scary part, what you're allowed to think. So how does the party run things? Through 4 main ministries. And get this, their names are a masterclass in twisting words. You've got the Ministry of Peace, which runs a never-ending war. The Ministry of Plenty, which makes sure everyone is on the brink of starvation. The Ministry of Love, which is actually the center for torture and brainwashing. And then there's the Ministry of Truth. Its job? To lie. All the time. So yeah, this is the government that would create a book with no words.
So you might be wondering, how does a government actually make a whole story just disappear? It's so much more than just burning books. It's about taking apart the very tools we all use to make sense of the world. Let's break down how they pull it off.
Okay, first up, they make it a crime to even think the wrong thing. They call it thought crime. Think about that for a second. You can be arrested, tortured, even killed, not for something you did, not even for something you said out loud, but just for a thought that crossed your mind. A flicker of doubt? An independent idea? That's the worst crime you can possibly commit.
Then, to make sure you can't even form that illegal thought in the first place, they mess with the language itself. This is where newspeak comes in. It's the official language, and it's designed by the party to get smaller every single year. The ultimate goal? To make it literally impossible to have a rebellious thought, because the words you need to think it, they just don't exist anymore.
Let's take a big, complex idea, like freedom. All the things that go with it, liberty, personal rights, individualism. In newspeak, all of that gets squashed down into one single nasty word, crime-think. And think about it, how can you argue for freedom if the only word you have to describe it means crime?
And what happens when people see a contradiction right in front of their faces? Well, they're trained to handle it with something called doublethink. It's this incredible mental gymnastics where you hold 2 completely opposite ideas in your head at the same time and you believe both of them. It's knowing that the Ministry of Peace is at war, but believing it's for peace. It's knowing a historical fact was just changed, but also believing the new version has always been true. This is the psychological glue that holds the party's power together.
So you put all these tools together, controlling thought, controlling language, controlling logic, and it all points to one ultimate goal, being able to completely erase yesterday.
And this right here, this is the core belief of the party. It's not just some catchy slogan, it's their playbook. Who controls the past, controls the future. Who controls the present, controls the past. If they can rewrite history, they can justify anything they're doing right now and dictate what's going to happen next. Their power is absolute because the past is just a story they get to write and rewrite every single day.
So, what does that kind of control actually look like in the real world? It looks like this, a blank page. This is what you get when the past has been completely, utterly controlled.
And this isn't a one-time thing. It happens every day at the Ministry of Truth. Workers are constantly correcting old newspapers, photos, books, anything that doesn't fit with what the party is saying today. And the original versions? They get tossed down something called a memory hole, which is basically a giant incinerator, and they're just gone, wiped from existence as if they never were.
And so now you can see how it all connects. It starts with changing one little newspaper article, and it ends with our mystery. A story that's inconvenient becomes an unstory, a book full of dangerous ideas, ideas about freedom and truth and fighting back. It becomes nothing but a stack of blank paper. The warning wasn't just ignored, it was made to have never happened at all.
Now, it's really easy to look at all this and think, wow, what a dark fantasy. A scary story about telescreens and memory holes. But here's the thing. The real power of 1984 is that its warning wasn't just for some distant fictional future. It was for us, right now.
You see, Orwell wasn't just pointing a finger at one type of totalitarian government. He was warning us about a process that can happen anywhere, even subtly. It's that slow chipping away at the idea of objective truth. It's when history stops being a record of what happened and starts being a tool to be used. It's the quiet manipulation of language until we just don't have the words to disagree anymore. It's what happens when we get so used to contradictions that we're willing to look at a blank page and accept it as the whole story just because we're told.
And that brings us to the big, urgent question for our time. In an age of deepfakes and alternative facts, in a world where our social media feeds can feel like echo chambers, who is writing our history? The tools look different now, sure. Instead of memory holes, we have server farms. Instead of newspeak, we have trending hashtags. But the fundamental question is exactly the same. How do we protect the story? And more importantly, how do we make sure our own pages don't end up blank?